Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. That is Jack. I'm Conrad, and this is the Footy 5 Transfer Not So Stupid Perfect Windows. Today we're going to talk a little bit about Aston Villa Football Club. When we started prepping for this, the rumored offer from Man City had not yet been reported on, and there's been a couple different things. So we're going to talk a little bit around Jack Grealish, this £100 million hole that may be created in Aston Villa. Originally rumored it was 90 million plus Morgan Rogers.
I thought it was Morgan Rivers, and I was looking all over the place for this Morgan Rivers. I was getting random Facebook profiles from like women in Tennessee, and I was just confused about what was happening.
Morgan Rogers, but it doesn't sound like that's going to happen. Villa wants a pure cash deal if the deal is going to happen. Either way, Villa did offer Grealish a new contract, but they're leaving it up to Grealish in terms of whether he wants to make the jump. Yeah. Which I guess it's 19 years of history with the club. Yeah, Jack, what do you want to do, man? We're going to do right by you. But at the same time, they want the $100 million or they want Jack Grealish.
I mean, also, this is kind of an awkward spot for Villa because he signed a new contract just a year ago. He has 4 years left on his deal. Yeah. Let's not act like this is some, if you don't accept the Man City deal, then he's just off. I mean, like, what's the point of signing a 5-year contract if you're not going to honor it? I think if Man City Aston Villa are fully within their rights to just say, no, I'm not going to do this. We'll give you a new contract. We'll give you the money you may have earned at Man City.
There's probably been a lot of conversations behind the scenes about this because he's been rumored to be going for the last 5 years, it feels like.
I mean, but what Aston Villa fans talk about is why now? Like, why would you jump now? Maybe last year would have made sense right after you almost got relegated. Maybe you want to make the leap up. But this is a side that genuinely could try and crash into the top 6. And I think that with the signings they're trying to make, one they have made and the one that they're close to making,
and the ones they've announced but aren't quite done yet.
With Grealish, they could do some great things. But again, you hope that you don't have to fill this hole. £100 million is a lot of money, but again, you can only play 11 players on a football pitch. And so it's tough if you lose one of the best in the world.
And this would be the largest deal in Premier League history, eclipsing the $90 million that United paid for Paul Pogba back in 2016. And that might only stand until the next purchase that City make, which is, of course, rumored to be Harry Kane for excess of $100 million. Who knows? But talking about Grealish a little bit in terms of what does he look like, Football Reference has this nifty little feature where you can look at 8 player statistics, and then based on who's closest to that statistic range, what does that player look like? And this is a pretty impressive list of people in the Premier League that he looks most like. Number 1 being Riyad Mahrez, and 10 looking least like Ross Barkley, which I would agree with. I don't know quite what the spread is here, but I think 4 of those guys are already City players.
What makes this profound and why we wanted to bring it in is that he has similar profiles to all of these guys, but he's an amalgamation of all of them. He's got an ability to carry the ball like a Mane, like a Rashford. He can create like a De Bruyne. He's a mixture of a winger like Mahrez.
Dribbling like Pulisic.
Exactly. He has every attribute needed to be a good forward, especially for a Manchester City side. And again, the reason why when Liverpool tried to replace Luis Suarez, when Tottenham tried to replace Gareth Bale, you got half dozen players, yes, but not a single one of them. It's not like Moneyball when you can kind of replace the players that Oakland Athletics lost in the aggregate. You can't just replace them by adding guys who can somewhat fill in. You have a guy like Jack Grealish who can do everything. That's special.
And we talked about Grealish a lot. Like, we really like him in this side. We really like what he was trying to do with England. But you now look at what he means to that team when he was in the side, when he was out for the 12 matches last year. So what we're showing here is the 12 matches leading up to his injury, and then the 12 matches of them playing without him. And what does that look like statistically? Goals per match dropped off pretty significantly, 1.25 to 1.08. Not a surprise. Bigger surprise for me, at least, was how many they conceded. That went up by half a goal per match without him in there, right? So for however you want to attribute that, that's the number, right? It's a half a goal difference. Points per match, you lost a third of what you were generating. Win rate, obviously much lower. Your table position, you were 7th with him, 15th without him. And then overall, if you were to project that, of course, across the season, it's 57 points, and they actually ended up with 55. So statistically, you could poke some holes in this and say, yeah, that's not really a great comparison. But actually it is, because they ended up with 55. The relegation spot was 28. They would have had 38 with a season long without Jack Grealish based on those 12 matches.
Look, I mean, they're It's basic. They're an inferior side without him, because the attention that he draws, the creative ability that he has, he doesn't pass the ball a ton in comparison to other players. He's about like 8th or 9th in terms of passes per 90. But when he does play the ball, he likes to kind of sit in the peripheral, get the ball in key areas, and then he can do something special with it. The difference between him and other players is that he isn't just a pure volume guy. He's a volume guy that has like key numbers behind it. He's able to create chances and opportunities for his teammates, whether it's by carrying the ball or by having otherworldly vision and creative ability and a pass. So the conceded match isn't a surprise to me, because without Grealish, there's less ways you can create. He can do a ton of different things. So opposition sides have to be much more defensively focused, much more
hanging back a little bit.
Yeah, hanging back a bit more. Versus if he's not there, you can almost push at them a little bit and try and throw some more numbers forward. Knowing
and they
that
didn't have a lot of time to adapt to playing without him either. It's not so you could. That's probably the biggest hole you could poke in this statistical comparison.
Yeah.
So now, if you figure out how to fill that hole, there's the rumor of the $25 million bid for James Ward-Prowse from Southampton, their captain, being rejected.
That was always going to be rejected. That was never going to be accepted. I mean, he has 4
insulting.
years. He has 4 years left in his contract. He's the captain.
28,
26.
26.
He's
wow.
I think he might be actually 25, turning 26. But he's nearing his prime. He's going to be a very good signing if they were to sign him. He's great for Southampton, who they don't have.
He's a free kick magician.
They don't have negative ambitions. But what Ward-Prowse would bring is, say, Jack Grealish draws a lot of fouls, most in the league, when he played every match. Then you have a guy who can whack some good free kicks in. So I think that would be a very interesting addition if you had both of them together. But if he's replacing him, then it's almost a case of, well, now you have less free kicks for him to showcase his magic at.
Leon Bailey from Bayer Leverkusen. So they sound like Villa have confirmed this deal, but there's no medical, no personal terms yet.
That's a very dangerous one. You think about Nabil Fekir to Liverpool when he had everything done except the medical, small knee injury cropped up. They wanted a change in the finances, and it was pretty much done. He was doing interviews with Liverpool, and the deal collapsed. So, I mean, I think it'll happen, but it's a bit like confident to say, yeah, we're signing this guy, but we haven't actually signed him yet.
There's no terms of agreement.
It's pretty rare, actually.
What was the number?
£30 million. Very, very good signing.
Deal.
8 goals, 7 assists. 9 goals, 8 assists in the Bundesliga last season. 5 goals in the Europa League. Really going to be a good option on the right side, or could play on the left. So I think it's going to mean that Bertrand Traore and El Ghazi could be rotation options. They're still very good players, but the fact that you can have multiple of them means you're not so reliant on your first 11. And at £30 million with the room and development he can continue to grow into, phenomenal signing.
And you've already got Emi Buendia. We did a video on him back when he was signed. You should totally check it out and subscribe for more. But when we talked about it, it was a compliment to Jack Grealish, right? Some folks were a little bit confused about it. It's a replacement for. No. We thought of it as a compliment. And now here we sit 2 months later. He's going to be part of filling the Jack Grealish-shaped hole in this Aston Villa side.
Yeah, I think that the transfer still could not happen. There still is a chance. And I think for Jack Grealish, there's a debate he has to have. You know, I think Buendia, Bailey, Ward-Prowse, Grealish,
Rivers,
plus maybe a Traore or an El Ghazi on the left side. I mean,
that's a really we're gonna get to that.
That side would be unreal, and Watkins up top. I mean, he would just be the happiest guy in the world because he'd have half a dozen creators behind him.
I mean, the allure of going to City and learning under Guardiola, who improves players, does an amazing job developing talent. Who knows what Jack Grealish could become underneath Pep Guardiola?
But I think the argument you always have to have is, you know, is one title at Aston Villa worth 10 at Man City? And I subscribe to that philosophy.
I advocate staying. I'm
because,
100% with you.
You know, I mean,
I'm just trying to figure out what's his consideration set.
So I saw a tweet where someone was saying that they're defending Jack Grealish's move because they wanted him to go from a streets won't forget player, where a guy who didn't win much or win anything, and was just a tremendous player. You know, like a Steven Gerrard without the trophies he did win, a Harry Kane, where he didn't win trophies, but he was this phenomenal individual player. They don't want to be a streets don't forget player. You want to be a guy who won trophies, has that kind of legacy. Villa with Grealish could win trophies. I think that it would be a slap in the face of the fans. I think he would still be a legend, I think, considering that he's kept him in the Prem.
He's been there since he was 6.
Yeah, but I think to leave now would be so tough because you think ward-prowse would be tough without the Grealish money, maybe. But even if it's just Buendia and if it's just Bailey, on top of what they already had, they had a great structure. You know, their defense is, I think, probably a top 5 defense in the entire league. Their midfield, McGinn and Douglas Luiz, is tremendous even without ward-prowse.
They have fullbacks.
I love Cash and Target. I think they're tremendous fullbacks. They're capable going forward. But I was looking
at their
Cash's
statistics,
stats.
and
They're unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
So this Villa side has one of the best squads in the entire Premier League. And with Jack Grealish, you have that star power. It's not just a side that has a lot of effective talent. Without Grealish, this is a mid-table side in my eyes, considering the additions they're
38
making.
points.
I think
better than 38.
Buendia
it's
and
late, though. You're 2 weeks from the start of the
Buendia
season.
and Bailey do not make you anywhere close to relegation if you're Aston Villa.
No. I think
they're comfortable 13th.
I was going to say you're 50 points.
I think they
regress a little bit.
I think you regress on maybe 45 points,
yeah.
and then you're low mid-table without Grealish. With Grealish,
I think
you're looking at
top 6.
You're
You're better than
places.
Arsenal. You're probably better than Spurs.
Yeah, I think considering the lack of additions that both sides have made, I think that
better than Everton.
I think really this is Aston Villa's time to pounce. They realize that this market is weird, and their owners are willing to invest, and they're willing to give Grealish new contracts. So if I'm Grealish, I'm looking at this and saying, I could do something special. Winning a Prem, winning even an FA Cup with Aston
Villa. Now you're
Villa.
getting down to Dean Smith, but
I think he could do it. Dean Smith could lead a Premier League winning side. I think people sleep on him a bit because some people could say it's just pass it to Jack Grealish and kind of just go, okay, buddy, go for it.
They've developed some amazing talent there.
They are at a crossroads. I think Jack Grealish completely decides where this team goes. If they're going to be a plateau of bottom half of the table but still in the Prem, or if they're going to be able to actually rise, be like a Leicester City, and utilize some of that star power. You saw Leicester City, they lost Mahrez, they lost Conte, they lost the key players that won them the title, and they couldn't keep it around. They won an FA Cup a few years later after continuing to develop the talent, but never before has the Big Six been as fragile as it is right now. Arsenal and Spurs are ready to be knocked off and replaced. And I think Leicester and Villa,
at least one
their sides with history, Leicester, recent history, Villa, a historic club, they're ready to replace those. I think now is the moment you keep them around. But at the end of the day, and the last thing I'll say is Villa could look at Jack Grealish and say, buddy, you're staying. You signed a 5-year contract.
And I don't think he'd be upset. I mean, he's got to make just an impossible decision. So does he stay or does he go?
In my eyes, I think he's going to go. I think that there's far too much smoke for there not to be actual fire. I hope he stays, and I think it would be the right decision to stay. Because at Man City...
I'll say he stays. That's what I'm hoping he stays.
I know
and I don't...
Over a year ago, we talked about this same guy. We said, is it a case of at a Man United, was the rumors then, would he struggle being a small fish in a bigger pond? At Man City, it would be the same issue. He would not be with a license to be the brilliant player that he is at Aston Villa. He would be part of a side that would win trophies, Prem favorites, Champions League favorites in my eyes. But is that all he wants? He could get the same amount of money playing for his boyhood club.
Get $200,000 is what they're offering him a week.
Trying to transform something.
Biggest contract in the history of the club.
If Grealish is concerned about his legacy, winning one Prem, one FA Cup, one European title, a Europa League, even a Conference League title at Villa, it's worth a dozen trophies at Man City. Because no disrespect to Manchester City fans or Manchester City as a football club, but Villa could do something special with Jack Grealish, like completely different to what we've seen in football in the last 2 decades. And I think they're capable of that with Jack Grealish.
Third season since getting promoted. They're gonna. I hope he stays. That'll do it for us. Taking a look at the transfer window the perfect window, I should say, for Aston Villa. Jack, Conrad, this has been the 45. Please do comment. Let us know what you think. Subscribe and look for us on the Twitter at the 45. Take care now.